This is a Cat Challenger 55 tractor. It's made by NZG and it's in 1/16 scale. Now this is a pretty unique model. I wouldn't say it's rare by any stretch, but it is uncommon and a little bit unusual. So NZG at the time, 99% of their products were construction models in 1/50th scale. So how did they wind up making an American farm tractor in 1/16th scale? It's kind of a neat story. It's kind of a long story, and we'll get into it in a minute. First, we'll look at the tractor. The tractor itself is really nice quality. Because it was built by NZG, that basically means that this thing is built like a brick house. It is heavy. The detail is pretty good. It's almost entirely die-cast metal. There's very little plastic on here. And it's also important to keep in mind the time at which it was made. So the Challenger 55 came out somewhere around 1996. And the farm toy came out at the same time. So if you compare it back to what Ertl was making at the time, this is really nice quality, but it's also about double the price of what their precision models cost. And really, you can't compare this to anything but the precision line because of the amount of detail that it has. And it's also important to note that I don't think Ertl was making any other farm toys with rubber tracks at the time, which might be one of the reasons why NZG made this model and not Ertl. Now, as far as the hood itself, it doesn't open up, but you do have the latches here, which is nice. You got the little lights there. You don't really have any motor detail, but that's because it's all under the hood. You do have, I guess that's a fuel cap there. I really don't know. But it looks pretty good. The handrails and steps, they all look pretty good. You're supposed to have a handle right here, but that seems to be missing. This is just missing in action. If you look inside there, you can see some pretty good detail on the interior, which again was better than what Ertl was putting out at the time. You also have the mirrors here and plenty of lights. The paint is all very good. The decals are all very crisp. You can see all the bogies and rollers moving there. If you come around to the back side, you can see that the back end is just excellent. You have a 3-point hitch, and the cylinders do work. The top link is almost laughably small. I don't know why. It seems like it's entirely too small. But you got the remote details. You got another light there, lights up here. You have a PTO, and you also have a swing and draw bar that actually looks like a drawbar, which is pretty cool. Overall, this really is a pretty cool model. NZG, they also made a 45. I really don't think they made a 35. So you basically, if you want a Cat Challenger farm toy, you basically, or well, 1/16 scale anyway, you basically have a choice between these NZG 45 or 55, or SpecCast also made a much more modern version of the Cat Challenger. But again, you really don't have a whole lot of choice here, so if you want to get one, you're probably going to have to open up your wallet. Now, like I mentioned, this coming from NZG was expensive. Around 1996, Ertl had started doing the precision tractors, but they were like, if I remember right, they were, you know, in that $75 to $100 range, maybe $80 to $100. And that was really expensive for a farm toy. I mean, that was really expensive. And you got good quality, but that was expensive. Keep in mind, this guy was probably close to $150. So that was just astronomical at the time. And yeah, it's a really nice tractor, but good Lord, that's expensive. So how did this tractor get made the way that it did? So this is where it's going to get a little bit boring and take a lot of twists and turns. So buckle up. Now, Caterpillar have been making tractors for the agricultural market since like the 30s. But really, they were just D4s, D5s, and D6s where they took the blades off and they added swing and draw bars and 3-point hitches in some cases. Around the 70s, Cat saw the need for a rubber track tractor on the big farm. So they came up with the Challenger 65, which was really a monster at the time. It was very heavy, it was very high horsepower, and it would basically pull anything you could throw at it. And it was pretty well received. I don't know if you could say it was revolutionary, but if you consider the amount of manufacturers today that make rubber-tracked farm equipment in every shape and size, it's hard not to look back at 1986 and not see it as revolutionary. So, around 1996, they redesigned the line, and they also added 3 more models. They added the 35 and the 45, which were really kind of a row crop size tractor, and they added the 55, which is what we have here. So the 55 and the 65 were, the main primary tillage tractors. The Challenger line is still made, but it doesn't say Caterpillar anywhere on it anymore. And that is because in 2002, Cat actually sold their Challenger line to Agco. So, where that gets kind of funny and kind of coincidental, Agco is, of course, the parent company to White. White used to put the blue tinted cab glass in their tractors for whatever reason. It cut down on the UV light, it saved from operator fatigue, whatever reason. But the White tractors would actually have blue tinted glass, which is kind of funny that this does too, considering that, they got bought by Agco. Now NCG put this blue tinted cab glass in most of their models. I have no idea why. It was just something that they did. But it was kind of coincidental that the real company that actually did that wound up with Challenger. So why is this such an unusual farm toy? There's a lot of little reasons that all kind of come together. At the time in 1997, NZG was still manufacturing the bulk of what Caterpillar wanted. Ertl had made some things, but really maybe 1% of what Caterpillar was putting out, or NZG rather. So, the other thing is, this was above and beyond what Ertl was putting out at the time. So I'd imagine that even if Caterpillar had gone to Ertl and said, hey, we want to make this, this isn't what you would have gotten from Ertl, not in 1997. And to be honest, it's really above the detail standard for NZG at the time as well. So I'd imagine, maybe they took it to NZG and said, hey, we want to have this done, this is what we want, and this is how we want it to look. And NZG said, yeah, sure, whatever. So, keeping that in mind, Caterpillar only sold these Challengers through their construction equipment dealerships. I mean, through a Cat dealership. So, if you wanted one, you had to go to a Cat dealership to get it. It was either that or through mail order from some guy in New York or Virginia or wherever, who knows. You could get one that way. And again, keep in mind, this was before the days of the internet, so there wasn't a good way to get one. If you weren't near a Cat dealership that sold agricultural tractors, you were out of luck. So that was one thing. The other thing was, because it was from NZG and this thing is gargantuan, it was astronomically priced. It was easily twice of what any other farm toy cost at the time. So you had a lot of guys that just looked at it and say, it's just too much money. And they passed on it. Not that there weren't a lot made, but they weren't easy to come by. They were too expensive. And I don't want to say they were too nice, but they're just nice tractors. I mean, you get what you pay for, but at the time, they were just too expensive. So all that kind of rolls together, and you wind up with, like I said, it's not rare, but it's just uncommon. You don't see too many of them out there. I know they made at least 1,000 of them. This is number 802, so I know there's 802 of these things floating around out there. They are all individually numbered. They're stamped, and it's just it's an interesting model. That about wraps it up for this. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to ask. If there's something you want to see, let me know. I might just have it. I try to put out videos every Saturday, so if you've asked for something and I do have it, please just be patient. If you want to see more of what I have, please subscribe to Maryland Construction Diecast, and thanks for watching.